Hey everyone, in this tutorial we'll be going over how to customize a WooCommerce email template from a template created in Postcards. So right now I'm in the Postcards app and I have a template created. It's Transactional 7 and we need the HTML code, so I want to export this by pressing the export button and then download as zip. And make sure you have the host images online option selected so you don't have to download and deal with the images yourself. I've already downloaded and extracted my file, so it looks like this. If I open this up, it's just the template that I created. And next we'll be going over how to start the process of how to customize the WooCommerce email template. Alright, so now I'm in the WordPress admin dashboard and I'm looking at the plugins. I want to add a new plugin called WooCommerce Email Test because this will allow you to easily preview what your emails look like. So go ahead and search for and install this plugin. I have already done that, so after you activate the plugin, you'll get a new submenu option called Email Test. And if you click that, you'll get to this page, and I've already set up my WooCommerce store and created a test order. So the email we're going to be customizing is completed order. So if I click this, this is the default email that gets sent for completed orders, and we'll be going over how to edit this and turn it into the WooCommerce or the Postcards template that we created. So to edit the customer completed order email file, we have to edit a total of 7 files. This is because WooCommerce builds their emails by creating different sections of the HTML. So they have their own file for the header, for the footer, for the order items, for the addresses and things like that. And whatever email needs each part, we'll just add those files as actions in their file. And that's how WooCommerce builds their emails. So if you go to this folder, wherever your WordPress is installed, under WP Content Plugins, WooCommerce Templates, Emails, you'll see a bunch of PHP files. This is These are the files that make up the every email that gets sent from WooCommerce. So the files we want to edit are email styles, email order items, email order details, email header, email footer, email addresses, and customer completed order. So if you edit the files in this folder, every other file and email template that relies on these files will get changed as well. So be aware of that. But we'll be editing the files directly in this folder. But for customer completed order, we want to create a copy in our theme folder and edit that file. So to do that, we go to settings and press emails and press completed order. And I've already created the copy, but to go over it again, I'll just delete it. So what you want to do is you want to press copy file to theme, and that will create a file under your theme. So we'll be editing this file instead of the file in the main folder. So the first file we should edit is email styles. So open this file in a text editor. So this file just defines all the styles that are used in the email templates. So we want to replace all the values in here with the styles from our index.html file from WooCommerce or from the Postcards template. So what we want to do is we want to delete everything that isn't from the Postcards app. And next, copy all the styles from your WooCommerce template. I mean, the Postcards template. So everything in between the opening and closing style tag, and just paste it in after this closing PHP file because we don't have any more PHP to write. So paste that in there and press save. And now email styles is done. And if you go and refresh your email preview, you'll notice that all the styles are removed because we removed all the styles that the default template uses. And so there are no styles. But next we'll be adding our own HTML code to make it look like the template that we created in Postcards. So the next file we should edit is the email header. So open this file in a text editor. And so what this file is the opening HTML code. So the opening HTML tag, the head tag, and the body and the start of the layout. So we'll do the same thing, delete everything in here. And in index.html, we can delete the styles because we've already added them. So we want to copy the beginning parts of the HTML code and the first part of the layout. So in the Postcards template, this table contains every other inner element. So this is where the end of the head should be because everything below it will be a part of the content. So since this is the opening layout, this is where we need to end it. So let's copy everything up until here, which is right after this comment, begin module, the second table. So just copy everything and paste it in the email-header.php file, save it, and now this part is good. So I've refreshed my preview and it's kind of starting to take shape, but you may have noticed that the title is missing now. This is because in the email header, there was some PHP code for the title tag right here. And so let's replace it. So the code is this. And what this code does is it prints out the blog info with the parameters name and display. So this is the opening PHP tag. So this tells the file that PHP code is starting. And this is the closing PHP tag. And this says the PHP code is stopping. And echo is a PHP keyword that prints out stuff. And get blog info is a WooCommerce function that prints out the name and display. So if I save this and I refresh, now the title is back. Alright, so now that the styles and header are ready, we can start adding code to make the template look like the Postcards template. So the first part is right here. This is just like the intro section. So the order, the thank you, and then a message. And each of these sections is a T body. And we want to edit the customer completed order file. So this is the copy that we created. It is under your themes, under your child theme, or whatever theme you're working with, under WooCommerce, under emails. So it looks like this. And so open it in a PHP file or a text editor. So this is what it looks like. And basically what it's doing is it's bringing in all the actions or the sections of the emails that it's building with, as well as printing out some unique HTML code. So the first action is the WooCommerce email header. And what this does is it brings in the email header file, and then the email order details, which will bring in the email order details file, and email order meta and things like that. So in this file, there is some unique code right here. And we want to replace that with the code that makes up this. And in our index.html, that code is right here. So it would be these T bodies. And since we can see that this text is the last part, and that is this text right here, and this is a layout space, we can just copy these T bodies right here. And paste it or replace it with whatever was here. And we can open the PHP file again, press save, and let's refresh. And there we go, we're starting to make progress. So this line of code right here isn't dynamic. We can't be hard coding our order numbers. So we have to add some PHP code to dynamically print out the order number. And that code looks like this. So I'm just going to copy it in here or paste it in here. And basically what this does is it prints out this order number, and this %s means that the variable is going to be in the next argument. So that would be this right here. And order is a WooCommerce class or object that has access to the current order and has access to the value. So to get the order number, you call get order number on the order and you place it in here. And this is how to print out some dynamic WooCommerce content. So if I save this and I refresh this, you'll see that the order number is now reflecting the actual order number and not a hard-coded value. So next is the email order details action, and that will include everything that's remaining. So the view my order button, the order details, the addresses, the order items, and the prices will all be in that action. But there are going to be parts with their own action. So address will have its own action, the order items will have their own action, and the prices, I believe, have their own action. So we'll be adding those actions in the order details action. So let's start with the view my order action. And so if I open this up in a text editor, this is what it currently looks like, and I will just delete everything and close the PHP tag. And I want to copy the button, so that would be right here. And this is the button, so I'll copy this and paste it in here, save it. And if I go back to my preview, I see my order button. So I want to make the order link dynamic. So back in the text editor, I have to add some code. So right before the A tag, after the TD tag, I have to add some code, and it looks like this. So I'll just copy it in here. And basically what this is it's WooCommerce code, and what it does is it sees if you're an admin, and if you are an admin, it prints out some extra information. Otherwise, it doesn't do anything. And we also need to update the href. because it's not example.com. It's a dynamic URL, so it's this one right here. And that is how to add dynamic links in an A tag with href. You echo out the order URL and you escape the URL for safety reasons. And next, we want to print out the view my order with PHP code. And this is what it looks like. So I will save the file, go back to the preview. And now, as you can see in the bottom left corner, there is a dynamic URL instead of example.com. So moving on, we want to add this entire section right here. So to do that, we go to the Postcards template, and that entire section will be contained within this T body. So let's find the closing. Yep, so this is right here. This is the closing T body tag, and I want to copy everything. Copy that, paste it in here, save it, and go back to the preview. And now we have the next few sections, and now we have to update the values to be dynamic. So back in the code, we don't have to make any layout changes. We just have to edit the value. So for order numbers, we want to make that print out with PHP code. And to do that, I have that prepared here. So this is what it looks like. And basically what this function does is it escapes the characters so that it's safe to print out in PHP in case there are some, print out in HTML in case there are some special characters or things like that. So that's how to print out the order number. And next is the actual number, which looks like this. And basically we're using the order object and getting the order number and echoing that out in the TD area. Next is order date. Same thing here. And this is also the same thing, except that there is another function which formats the date. And next, the addresses are its own action. So instead of printing out the code here, we want to delete it and add an action. So within this TD tag, this table is what defines the action or the layout. So we'll delete this and paste in the PHP code that prints out the action. And that basically does the same thing we've been doing all along, which is adding actions where they're needed. So let's preview what's going on. And we have the order number printing out dynamically, and we have the old billing addresses code. So we're going to be updating that next. All right, so let's open up email addresses. And we want to do the same thing, just delete everything that's already there. And the addresses layout is defined right here. This is the entire table. Paste that in here. Refresh the preview. And before it was printing out twice, and it's printing out twice again. but that's okay because the more we change, the second address action will be deleted. So now we want to update the code dynamically. So I have it prepared here. We want to get the address and shipping variables in the top part just to make it easier. After that, there is this line of code, which will replace this right here. And basically what this does is it checks which billing or shipping will be printed. So if there's a billing and no shipping, then it only prints out the billing. If there's shipping and no billing, then it only does the opposite. So that's that right there. Next is the escaped HTML for the shipping address, which is defined right here. I pressed Alt Z to enable text wrapping in my Visual Studio Code editor. So I just replaced the hard-coded value with this PHP function. Next is the shipping address dynamic or printing out dynamically. And we're going to be closing the if statement right here because this is where the two divs defining the layout for the addresses are defined. So next will be the billing address and the value. So what this does, it prints out the address or not available, and it also checks to see if there are more values. So the phone number prints out the phone and the email if there is one, and it prints that out. Now if I go to the preview, since there is no shipping address, it doesn't print out, and it prints out the other values dynamically. So that was the addresses, and next in the email order details file, we have to finish it off by adding the rest of it. So this section right here will add the postcards code in that file. So this is where the table for the items are defined, as well as the prices. So the price, subtotal, gift card, and all that, it's all within this T-body. So let's copy and paste all that. Paste that in at the bottom, save the file, and refresh. And next we'll be updating the values. So back in the text editor, we are in the T-body for the prices table, and in between this section right here, the TD and the table, we have to add a special action. This checks if it's an admin that's viewing the email, and if it is, then it prints out some more information. Next, we will update the header values to use escaped HTML, and we'll do that for every header. Next, so for each row, it's an order item, and each order item works like an action because it has its own template. So what we want to do is we want to replace everything in here. So each table item or table row, we will delete it and add in a special function, and it looks like this. This behaves in the same way as an action. It's just a different function, and this takes in the code from the order items and places it in here like you would an action. So next we'll be updating that file. So if you open up your email order items, it's a file that looks like this. And basically what it does is it loops over every item in the order and prints out values and table rows for that order item. So we want to replace everything as well as the for loop and make our own loop. And our for loop looks like this. So it's the same thing, the only difference is for our images we're adding some more attributes, so a class, an alt, and a style. And in between the opening and closing loop code, we want to print out the HTML code for each order item. So let's just start with a 1tr. So this is good enough. And save the file, go back to the preview, and we are printing out 2 because there are 2 items in the order. And next we'll be updating the values to update dynamically. So basically we'll be doing the same thing as before, just replacing the values with some PHP code to print out the content dynamically. So for this image tag, the way to print it out dynamically, first delete it, and the code looks like this. So you're checking if there is an image to show, and then you're printing it out using WordPress functions, and it looks like this. Next is the description, and that looks like this. So if I save this and reformat it, basically we're using WordPress functions and filters to print out the WooCommerce order item name. And if there is an SKU, print that out as well. Next is the description, and that looks like this. So this is an action to print out the meta description, and it allows other plugins to add additional product information. And then you're displaying the item meta using this function right here. And then this is the end action for displaying the meta descriptions. And next for the quantity, it is this line of code right here. So basically we're getting the quantity from the item object. We're getting the refunded quantity if there is a refunded value. And if there is a refunded value, then make the quantity display look like this. Else, just display the quantity and then print out that value using WordPress functions. And for the price, this is what it looks like. We're using WordPress functions on the order object to get the formatted line subtotal of the item. And after this TR, there is another thing to show. So if there is a purchase note, then print out more code, which is purchase note using WordPress functions. So if I save this and I go back here, we now have dynamically printed out the order items. So what's left in the email order description or email order details is the totals. So each row will be a dynamic value and print out whatever is needed to be printed out. And then finally the total value. So this is the rest of the code. And I'll just paste in the whatever is left and go over what happened. So this is where it starts after the T body, which defines the email order items. I'll delete it and paste in this huge chunk of code. So this is the start. Basically, to go over it line by line, first we're getting the item totals, and if that is not null, then we will create a table body right here and make a loop for each item total, and the key is the order total. So in the website, that would be either the subtotal, the gift code, the shipping, the tax, or whatever is the value from WooCommerce. And then we create a table row, and this is just the table row in the Postcards code, which would look like this TD call span equals 2. So it's this right here. And we're doing the same thing as we've always done. We replaced the hard-coded value with PHP dynamic value. And this total is right here. So if it's called subtotal, then subtotal would be the value for here. But since we're looping over each section, we can't hard code it. We have to get the value from WooCommerce. So that's that right there. And this style checks if there is a discount. And if there is a discount, then it adds a different color and more styling. And then after that, it prints out the value. So the value would be here in this line of code right here. And that's that. And then we increase the counter by 1 and continue looping over until all the subtotals are done. Next, we check if the order total has been set. And then you print out this line of code right here, and we're printing it out dynamically, the order total and the label, and then the value for that, and then we're closing off the opening if and loop statements. So after that, there is a customer note section. So if there is a customer note, print that out with this code right here. And then we have another action, which is the WooCommerce email after order table, which prints out extra content if the person reading it is the admin. So if I save the file and I go back to the browser and I refresh. Oops, this is the wrong one. You can see that the values is now updated dynamically. We have the subtotal and the value, and the payment method and the value, and the total, which reflects the total price. So let's finish off the customer completed order file. The last thing we changed was this email order details, and next we just want to check if there is some information to be printed in these actions, and then wrap them in our postcards layout code, as well as change the email footer. So I will just paste in the code, which is here. So the difference between this line of code and this line of code is we've added a check if it has an action, and then we just wrap it in the postcards template layout table body. So let's change that. And after that, we want to delete this section because we have already added this action in the order details. And next, we're doing the same thing for additional content. Just wrapping it in a postcards table body if there is something to be displayed. And then for the footer, we have to find the end of the postcards code. So it's this right here. This is the closing table tag for the opening table tag, as well as the rest of the HTML code. So I will open up email footer and just replace everything in here with the postcards ending footer. Save this file and go back to here. And there we go. We have completed the WooCommerce customized completed order email. So we went over how to edit 7 different files in the WooCommerce email template, as well as the customer completed order file, which brought in multiple actions from the style, the header, the order details, the address, and the footer. So hope you've learned a lot in this tutorial, and until next time, see you guys later.